Assassin's Creed. The one word that comes to mind when we think about this great game franchise is legacy. Despite the fact that the game has become a cash grab in recent years, one cannot deny that this game franchise has left us with so many memories. Many of us are still attracted towards the franchise and still give it a shot because of the great games that have come in the years before. Although the quality of games and writing has declined steadily over the years, one cannot deny the impact the Assassin's Creed games have had over the gaming industry. I still remember the day when Assassin's Creed 2 came out. People were losing their minds about how good this game was, and despite it being 12 years since it released, the game still holds up as one of the best. Although there have been some decent attempts at resuscitating the franchise, like Assassin's Creed Origins in 2017, the quality only seems to be getting worse and worse and worse because of stiff competition from other gaming franchises and the commercial nature of the gaming industry itself today. There has been a total of 12 games that has been released since 2007, and like anything else in life, they are not all perfect. But the question is, which one is the best? Which one is the worst? And what rank would some classics get? Let's find out, because in this video today, we're going to rank every single Assassin's Creed game. Number 12, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. If only Ubisoft had the sense to take out the Assassin's Creed name from the Odyssey game, this would have been one of the most amazing games ever made and would have definitely ranked as an all-time classic. But the biggest problem with the game is that there are no assassins. This is the real-life equivalent of making a Marvel movie without any superheroes. What were they thinking? Any logical person would definitely try to find an assassin in an Assassin's Creed game. This game, apart from the one glaring issue of not having any assassins, is actually really beautiful. The graphics are stunning. The gameplay, despite being repetitive, has its own charm. And the recognizable landmarks are just jaw-dropping. But even though this game has some really highlighted positives, the negatives are so strong that they overshadow the positives by a long mile. The protagonist is weak at best. The antagonist is one of the most poorly written antagonists in any Assassin's Creed game, probably the most. And the unfortunate RPG route that the Assassin's Creed franchise has taken in recent years, all these things combined, this game really fails to impress, which is why it holds the last spot. Next, number 11, Assassin's Creed Rogue. Assassin's Creed Rogue, in my estimation, could have easily been a DLC for Assassin's Creed Black Flag. The fact that they've made an entire game out of it is really depressing. And the biggest and most glaring problem in this game is actually the protagonist slash antagonist. Poorly written, weakly portrayed, and the character motives are just too checkered. The only saving grace of this game is actually Haytham Kenway. I really feel that the Haytham Kenway character is really underappreciated amongst the villains of Assassin's Creed. And even though Haytham Kenway is present in the game, even he couldn't save the sinking ship. A really weak installment in the Assassin's Creed franchise. But the only reason it's ranked above Assassin's Creed Odyssey is because at least it has assassins in it, which, if you ask me, is the most important thing for an Assassin's Creed game to have. Next, number 10, Assassin's Creed Unity. Assassin's Creed Unity is actually a love story with assassins in it. The problem with this game is that they've put too much focus on Arno and Elise's love angle. And even if you keep the writing aside, the game has been marred with technical difficulties and bugs from the very beginning. The glitches at one point have become so darn bad, many players have deemed it unplayable and completely quit the franchise. But with that being said, there are some things that this game got right. For example, the parkour. The parkour in Assassin's Creed Unity is probably the best. They took the already amazing parkour from Black Flag and improved upon even that. And the Paris during French Revolution looks absolutely stunning, so it definitely deserves points for that. And even though it wasn't the most impressive game, I would say it's a decent entry in the franchise. Next, number 9, Assassin's Creed 1. The original Assassin's Creed, the godfather of all Assassin's Creed games. During the time of its release, this was a really revolutionary game. Many people don't know this, but this game actually came off of the heels of Prince of Persia. And even though the two franchises have nothing to do with each other, Assassin's Creed really is a spiritual successor to the Prince of Persia franchise. In my estimation, the game really hasn't aged well because of the old mechanics of the game and the slow pacing, but one cannot overlook the mind-blowing creative side of the first Assassin's Creed game. Something like this had not been seen up until this point. The game has a great protagonist in Altair and a great antagonist who is Altair's mentor Al-Mualim. And the student-teacher dynamic between the two really make up for many of the potholes in the storyline. It's definitely not the best Assassin's Creed game, but trust me, it really is the pioneer. Next, number 8, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Some of you might be wondering exactly why I placed Assassin's Creed Syndicate over the original Assassin's Creed. The first thing, Assassin's Creed Syndicate looks really stunning. And there's one pattern that we have to notice, that the Assassin's Creed games are being ranked depending on the storylines as well. Because one cannot disagree with the fact that the stories are really the soul of the Assassin's Creed franchise. And although the original Assassin's Creed story is marginally better than Assassin's Creed Syndicate's, but still, the parkour, the beautiful Victorian era London, the improved combat system, and smoother gameplay has definitely earned Assassin's Creed Syndicate a spot higher than the original. But the reason it didn't place any higher is because of a weak antagonist and 2 weak protagonists. This proves the fact that more isn't always better. Even though this Assassin's Creed could have been revolutionary, the poor writing has ensured that Jacob and Evie never really find their pitch. The characters and motives are never really established in one place, and Jacob's goofy nature, which should have been his strong point, has turned out to be another point of irritation for the players. All these points combined with a poor plot have pushed this Assassin's Creed game so low on the list. It could have been higher, but as the game turned out to be, number 8 is the perfect fit. Next, number 7, Assassin's Creed Revelations. Assassin's Creed Revelations is the weakest amongst the Ezio trilogy. The problem is, this game really broke away from what the base of the Ezio trilogy was. With the kind of amazing background story Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood had provided, this game had the potential to be the greatest game in the Assassin's Creed franchise. Although a decent game in its own right, the last chapter in the heartfelt story of Ezio, a character with which people almost feel a personal connection, this should have been the best game amongst the 3. But unfortunately, it was not. What I think is that they tried too hard to improve too much upon the previous 2 games in Ezio's trilogy. Although Constantinople was a welcome change, the map never really found its mark the way Florence, Venice or Rome's map did. And as in the games in the lower half of the list, this game too had a weak antagonist. Prince Ahmed is really a forgettable antagonist in the vast array of villains in Assassin's Creed. And when I think of this, I remember a saying that a man is measured by the strength of his enemies. I really feel that the best of the games have been made so by not just the protagonist but actually the antagonist as well. That along with the fact that Revelations had too many confusing storylines and repetitive side missions, the game really never became what it should have been. The perfect swan song for one of the most amazingly written characters in gaming history. Next, number 6, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Although it's a recent release and the dark cloud of the RPG era still hangs above this game, I have to give credit where it's due. This game is really good. The Ivar character really brings life into this game, and the fact that Assassin's Creed is slowly and steadily moving away from reality and going more and more towards myths, legends and supernatural stuff. This game still has its roots right where it should be. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is one of the stronger entries into the franchise. The world is detailed, beautiful, and filled with quests that would make you want to explore the world. This is exactly how a world should be built. And even though the Layla Hassan stuff is not really my cup of tea, and I don't much care about the ongoings of current time in the Assassin's Creed timeline, I would still like to give props to this game. The gameplay is a really good improvement over Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The parkour is just average, nothing can beat Unity. But they've encompassed the Viking culture perfectly and blended it seamlessly with the Assassin's Creed genre, a commendable feat and well-deserved number 6 spot. Next, number 5, Assassin's Creed Origins. As and when we move towards the upper half of the list, we are getting to the good stuff. Assassin's Creed Origins is good stuff. First and foremost, from a visual perspective, in my estimation, this is the best game in the entire franchise. The ancient Egypt brought to the screen in this game is just stunning. When I go through the sand, I really feel like that is how it would have felt. It is so darn real. Although this was the game that started pulling the franchise towards its current direction, one would be remiss to not consider the stunning quality of the game. I feel that after Ezio, Bayek of Siwa is one of those protagonists that you really connect with. He feels human, he has a family, he has gone through pain. He's not just a guy who one day decided to be an assassin. He was a person who was pushed into being an assassin. Organic storylines like this are really ones that click. And not to mention the vast improvement in gameplay and overall game mechanics make sure that Assassin's Creed Origins holds the number 5 spot. Next, number 4, Assassin's Creed 3. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. A lot of you are going to point out that how Assassin's Creed 3 is one of the weaker entries, how Connor Kenway is one of the weaker protagonists, and how this game should have ranked lower. But hear me out. Despite having a subpar protagonist, this game has what most of the other games don't have in this franchise: an amazing antagonist. Haytham Kenway is actually the most layered and multi-dimensional antagonist that this franchise has ever seen. Haytham Kenway is one of those characters that feels so real. His motives are clear. His psychology, despite being downright cruel, actually has some sense in it, which is very rare, because usually these games portray the characters in black and white. The protagonist is usually portrayed to be pure, righteous, and knight in a shining armor, and the antagonist often seems to be just the bad guy doing bad stuff for no good reason. But thankfully this game is not marred by that, and combined with the fact that this game has some stunning visuals and vastly improved gameplay mechanics from its previous games, easily earns it the number 4 spot. And not just that, even the overall psychology of the game really makes sense. It's set in a time where an assassin could really exist and make a real change. Parkour in this game was subpar. I personally enjoyed the inclusion of being able to do parkour on trees, and the snowy mountainside and the cities during the American Revolution are really full of life. They never feel fabricated or forced, they are really organic. I'm happy that they didn't change the world just to improve the parkour. The game has received a lot of criticism for this, but if you think about it, them building the world the way it actually was back then and not tweaking it just so that it could fit the game is actually an ingenious and a genuine move on Ubisoft's part. And in my book, this game has earned the right to be number 4. Next, number 3, Assassin's Creed 2. What a game this is. There will probably never be another one like this. Although it's number 3 on the list, make no mistake about it, this is still one of the best. In my opinion, the 1, 2 and 3 spot could have gone either way, but the number 2 spot has edged out Assassin's Creed 2 by a teeny tiny bit. This game really made me fall in love with this franchise. The beginning of Ezio's story, one of the most heartfelt and genuine stories to come out of this franchise. I still remember like it was yesterday, the first time I saw Ezio and his brother climb a tower in Florence. Jesper Kevadi's amazing track Ezio's family started to play, and I could not believe what I was seeing. I was instantly hooked. I knew that I was up for something extraordinary. This game has it all. An amazing storyline, beyond belief visuals for its time, superbly and tightly written stories, and obviously the best protagonist in the series, and also one of the stronger antagonists in the series. And not just that, even the side characters are so memorable, be it the Pazis or Ezio's uncle Mario, and who can forget Leonardo da Vinci, and even lesser seen characters like Niccolo Machiavelli and La Volpe have left their mark. A rare game in the vast array of games in the world. These are the kind of games when you play them again after many years, it's like you've fallen back in time. They take you back to the first time you played them. You really feel like a kid again. A feeling that is to die for, and a game that is beyond belief. Although number 3, spiritually it is really number 1. Next, number 2, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Every time I think about Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I could really feel the Caribbean sea winds hitting my face. I can actually remember it as if it happened in real life. Me standing atop the deck of the Jackdaw, sailing through the Caribbean seas, looking out for my next adventure. This game is one of the finest. If Assassin's Creed had held on to this pitch, it probably would have become the greatest game franchise in gaming history. I think that the Assassin's Creed Black Flag should have been the swan song of Assassin's Creed games. because unfortunately after this game it was all downhill. But be that as it may, this was really the platinum age of Assassin's Creed. A new fresh direction for the games and a story that is really emotional. Anybody that's played the Assassin's Creed Black Flag game really knows how turbulent the journey of Edward Kenway was. The loss of his friends, the loss of his loved ones, only to realize that he's been chasing something he doesn't even want anymore. What a beautiful story. Not only is Black Flag stunning, it is also thought-provoking. It really makes us question our greed for riches in life. And I can honestly say it did that to me. And in addition to the fact that this game has a solid plot, it also has amazing gameplay mechanics. And god damn it, who can ever forget Bartholomew Roberts? I really saw that guy and wanted to choke him the first time I saw him. And even though he was the villain, that guy made sense too. The writing of this game is really that damn good. A solid installment in the Assassin's Creed franchise and a completely deserving number 2 spot. And now, as all of you would have guessed, number 1, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. This game is the epitome of what the Assassin's Creed games should be. The protagonist, perfect. The antagonist, fierce, scary. Cesare Borgia is the real freaking deal. The gameplay, just jaw-dropping. The visuals, stunning, just amazing for the time. The storyline, an absolute 10 on 10. Side missions, who could ever forget the Leonardo da Vinci side missions? Those missions were to die for. The city of Rome felt alive. And since we're talking about side missions, let's talk about side characters as well. Even the side characters in this game are so perfectly written. Niccolo Machiavelli, La Volpe, Claudia, Caterina Sforza, Lucrezia Borgia. And even though Rodrigo Borgia was really pushed to the side in this game, he had already played his part. It was Cesare's time now to shine, and did he shine or what? I think Ubisoft should really stop what it's doing and really look back at the perfection that Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was. They had taken the perfect Assassin's Creed 2 and improved upon even that and made it something beyond perfect, something beyond amazing. The first time I played Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and finished, I knew that one time was not going to be enough. And even to this day, I feel like going back and playing it. The game never really feels like it's lacking anything because it's not perfect in every sense of the word. Is it a perfect game? Definitely not. But is it a perfect Assassin's Creed game? You bet your ass it is. I think what the head honchos of Ubisoft are failing to understand about Assassin's Creed is that the soul of this game is not the visuals, it's not the marketing, and to an extent it's not even the gameplay. It is about the stories. It's about the personal connection to the characters. That is what we look for when we play an Assassin's Creed game, and that is exactly what's been missing. Although I ranked Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Origins highly, it doesn't take much to realize that the newer entries in the franchise pale in comparison of quality and pitch of the games that came before the RPG era began. We all can really agree that Assassin's Creed 2 and Black Flag had much better stories and characters in them. I would also like to mention how the music during the Ezio trilogy was just amazing. It was just the most beautiful and most perfect music that anybody could have ever provided for the Assassin's Creed games. Hats off to Jesper Kid. So now that we are through with our list, I've come to the realization that the Assassin's Creed games are not getting any better, and I don't expect them to. What once had a soul that was full of stories, feelings and life has now just become a cash cow. Assassin's Creed games is just about grabbing some money from our pockets for Ubisoft now, and the authenticity of the Ezio era is probably never coming back. But the good thing is, even if you don't really like the Assassin's Creed games coming out now, one could always go back and enjoy the classics. With that said, comment down in the comment section below which is your favorite Assassin's Creed game, and let me know why, and what do you think about the list. Write it all down in the comment section. If you liked the video, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell. That way you will be notified every time a new video pops up. It's your boy VZX signing out.